All right. Let's get this thing started. Running a little late, obviously, but that's okay. Tell the people over there at Ranting Monkey. Well, let's see. What's he doing? How long is he going to be going here? Let me check his channel for a second. I don't know what's going on here, but I'm actually... Wait a minute. Oh, that's me. I know I'm going. Nah, I don't want to hear his voice. Let's do that. I have a lot to talk about today, but I'm not going to talk about the court decision that's likely to come down, although there's a couple of them that are coming down today. Should I turn that down a little bit? Is that just loud to me, or is it just me? That seems really loud. Here, let's do that. There we go. Now I can hear myself. Anyway... Well, yes, I'm wearing the same shirt on the stream as in my thumbnail. I do that every day. Didn't you notice that? You didn't know that? Huh. Well, here, I'm going to go watch this. Let's see. Copy. Let me see what he's doing over there. Just a second.
Is that wrong? Should I be waiting? How long is this fucking... Oh, my God, damn. How many pages is this bitch?
Oh, did they drop the decision already?
38 pages of a case I don't care that much about. I'm just curious.
Oh no, he's talking about something else,
I suppose.
All right, well, anyway, I got a show of my own to do, and that's it. That's my intro. Johnny, turn that off and play my intro.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog Studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America, it's a brother making his own way but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, yours truly, P Dog Night.
All right, stop the music. Where am I? What the hell? Let's try this. There we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Night Live. I'm your host, Marty, also known as P Dog Night on the internet, and welcome back to the P Dog Night channel. It is, what is it? Wednesday, hump day? The 22nd of... I'm not muted, am I? Stop that. I am not muted. I can see that I'm talking right there. Smart ass. Anyway, there's no sound? How is there no sound? That can't be right. Hang on a second. Are y'all messing with me? The 22nd of... You're messing with me. There's sound. I hear P Dog Night and I think 3 Dog Night. Yeah, okay. Y'all, why y'all messing with me? Jesus. Anyway, happy Wednesday, hump day. Lots of stuff going on today, Supreme Court decisions and all kinds of things. But I'm going to wait till tomorrow to talk about that stuff because those decisions are going to come down sometime either during or after my show, and I'm just not going to pay attention to it. We all know what's happening, and I have some peripheral things to talk about that, but we'll get there. But I just want to get into some news. Since I'm running late, I don't want to spend a lot of time just talking about nothing, but I am going to say good morning to everybody because that's what I do. First in the chat today is our friend Advocatus Diabli, who gets the bell, and thank you for being here. Also, good morning too. Maddie's in the house. Nice to see you. Select a boy. Black Hebrew Israelite.
That's right.
I got all the sound effects people right in front. Mike Savage, Blarg, everyone in a row. Nice. Also, good morning, Attack Alpaca, Tyre Alexander, Man Squatch, Simon Wolfwood, Zach to the Future, D.I. Freighter Watcher. Am I missing anybody? That's about, is that everybody so far? Because I know there's, my favorite Canadian Jaeger ponies here. Zan Wild's in the house. This is Kyle. Good morning, Kyle. The chef's here. Nice to have you back. And Lord Stanhope and Rotten Corp. So that rounds out who's here so far. And I'm just oh shoot, did I just shut him off? I don't want to shut it. I want to hang on a second. I want to see if is he still going? Is he still talking over there? Because I was going to throw a link to my show in there. Oh, he's done. What the hell? Well, so much for that. Or did I just hit the wrong button? Let's see here. Let me see. Oh yeah, he's gone. Here, is there still a chat? There's not even still a chat. Okay, well, forget it. Anyway, glad you're here. CNN Sucks, Richo's here. CNN Sucks, the most redundant name on the internet. And Richo, my friend from down under. Okay, so let's just get into it because now there's a couple news things that happen. We've been talking a lot about the transgender sports, right? We talked about well, not just sports, but just a lot of things about the transgender thing. And we talked about what is a woman, and lots of people asked the questions. We talked about the FINA, the international body for water sports, swimming, diving, water polo, things like that, is not allowing transgender. Transgender women who are males to compete in female competition, based on some science things that they learned and know and whatever. Well, there's another one that just happens again, and this is pissing people off that who are really invested in this ideology. I don't know if it's an ideology. It's certainly a trend. Whether they like to admit it or not, but hang on a second here. Oh shoot, what'd I do there? God, Marty, get your shit together. All right, will you be able to see it now? Yes, you will. So another domino has fallen. Rugby, the rugby's international governing body. You can't really see that, can you? Is that in there? It's not fitting on the page. Let's make it so it fits on the page. Rugby's international governing body on Monday banned transgender athletes from competing. Now, competing, I hope they clarify that. Make it the latest sports body in recent weeks to restrict them from participating. The International Rugby League, which sets rules for the sport and matches around the world and oversees the Rugby League World Cup, said in a statement that male to female rugby players will not be permitted to play in sanctioned women's matches before further research is conducted. It is the IRL's responsibility to balance the individual's right to participate against perceived risks to other participants, the league said. The International Swimming Federation on Sunday announced it will restrict transgender athletes from competing in women's events, saying it will only permit individuals who transition before the age of 12 to compete as women. British Cycling moved to suspend transgender inclusive policies in April, saying its former guidelines were unfair to all women riders and poses a challenge to the integrity of racing. More sports are expected to follow in the wake of the International Olympic Committee's November decision to leave it up to the members of the member federations, to set guidelines for classifying athletes as men or women. The Washington Post poll from last week showed 58% of Americans believe biological men should be barred from women's professional and collegiate sports. So, and I don't want to be, I don't feel like I'm, discriminating and not being inclusive to transgender athletes, but sometimes science needs to prevail. And in a sport like rugby, which is very physical, we saw what was that the transgender woman from, I think it was Australia, that was playing they played handball and rugby. Hannah something. They changed their name to, and just a hulking giant of a man when she was a man, and then she decided to change genders, and now it almost looks silly with her competing against females. It'd be like the comparison, because especially in sports where your size isn't like part of the criteria for who you compete against. So like in fight sports like wrestling or boxing and things like that, you're in weight classes. But in these other sports, size matters. And a giant hulking, linebacker looking human being playing against women is just, you got to worry about the danger to those people. Yes, now they need to do it in women's MMA. Yeah, I agree. I know that I'm pretty confident. I don't think the whatchamacallit, UFC allows transgender athletes to do that. But okay, I got a message from my daughter. Do you mind bringing up some laundry? Oh, no, you can go ahead and do that. I have a message here from my daughter. No problem. Although she might be listening to the show by now. We'll see. But let me know if my daughter shows up in the chat. So anyway, good morning, Lord Stanhope, too. So anyway, that's another one has fallen. And if you want to see the statement, and as you know, every day I put all the articles, tweets, videos, whatever, into a single link in the description down in the second paragraph, one tab link where you can click the link and it'll take to a page that has everything that we've talked about or seen today listed with hyperlinks to every single article and so on and so forth. So anyway, here is the statement. Oh shoot, I just allowed notifications from the International Rugby League. Anyway, here's the statement from the International Rugby League. They have a page here. Statement on transgender participation in Women's International Rugby League. The IRL continuing its work to review and update rules about transgender participation in Women's International Rugby League and will seek to use the upcoming World Cup to help develop a comprehensive inclusion policy. Now that's, maybe they should say a comprehensive exclusion policy, but, living and dying at the root of inclusion. Yes, I did. My wife is like, okay, hang on. Yes, I did. LOL. Not going to make it a habit, though. Not going to make it a habit, though. And then I'm going to put LOL so she doesn't hit me when she gets home. Okay, don't hit me, honey. There we go. Okay. So anyway, no more texting during the show. Okay, anyway, so until further research is completed to enable IRL to complete or implement a formal transgender inclusion policy. Okay, stop calling it an inclusion policy. Okay, you're not required to include or have inclusion of anybody. Whether it be male, female, if you have a disease, you don't have an inclusion policy. How about participation policy? That would make a little more sense. Hello, Chicago Mike. Male to female trans women players are unable to play in sanctioned Women International Rugby League matches. In reaching this position, the IRL, which last reviewed transgender participation in international rugby leagues in January and February 2021, considered several relevant developments in world sport. Not the least of these was the IOC's publication of its November 2021 Framework on Fairness, Non-Discrimination, and Inclusion. Stop saying inclusion on the basis of gender identity and sex variations. The IOC concluded that it is the remit of each sport and its governing body to determine how an athlete may be at a disproportionate advantage compared with their peers, taking into consideration the differing natures of each sport. In the interest of avoiding unnecessary welfare, legal, and reputational risk in international rugby league competitors and those competing therein, the IRL believes there is a requirement and responsibility to further consult and complete additional research before finishing its policy. Okay, look, I can save some time. I can save them some time. In a sport like rugby, which size, strength, speed, explosiveness, power, and everything is a factor in how well you perform, a male who transitioned to live as a woman will not lose any of the characteristics that came with them before they transferred. So they will not lose size. They might lose a minor amount of muscle mass. They might lose a minor amount of speed. But physicality, size, you don't shrink. And it's just, I'm sorry, it's just, I don't know why it's not common sense, but they keep using that word inclusion because we're so scared of not being inclusive. But inclusion, why? Because we discriminate on various reasons for different things all the time. So anyway, I'm looking. I'm sort of disappointed. I was looking forward to men kicking the shit out of women. Well, that's the problem. We don't know. No, I disavow. Where I don't want men kicking the shit out of women. Or, you know what? Unless, here's let me give you a caveat on that. Because if they demand this happen, then I am going to go and find all the greatest transgender athletes I can find and make a team. Because we'll clean the slate. So I'm telling you, it'd just be something else. Richo says, in a country that dominates rugby league, even the smallest men would crush the biggest women. Exactly. Look, and I laugh about this about when we talk about the NBA. When I remember who it was that Brittany Griner challenged. Brittany Griner was talking about DeMarcus Cousins, and she made some statement. In fact, let's look that up. This is kind of funny. Let me Brittany Griner, DeMarcus Cousins. Here's the let's look that up here because this is hilarious. How long is this video? I don't have a video. Brittany Griner challenges DeMarcus Cousins. Why is this not? Did WNBA take this off their site because it seems to be gone? Oh, did they come to their senses? Nope, here it is. This is crazy. Okay, so Brittany Griner, sure, she's a very tall, fairly talented basketball player, and uses size to advantage. She's a 6'9" woman. She's tall. She's big. She's strong, and she's a decent basketball player for a woman. Oh, I'm going to hell for that. So Brittany Griner has never struggled with her confidence on the basketball court. Standing 6'8", she's the tallest player in the WNBA. And now the former number one pick wants to see how she stacks up against NBA talent. Taking to social media, she offered to challenge DeMarcus Cousins. In fact, they listed an Instagram link. The USA Basketball responded accordingly. Want to see this? Brittany Griner versus Boogie Cousins, that's his nickname on Twitter. Who wins the battle of American basketball? Look, DeMarcus Cousins, or any, I'll take any player in the NBA, from the top players to LeBron. Who's the for Davidson kid who just plays for the Warriors? I can't even think of his name. Any NBA player. In fact, any NBA player who has played or even has been retired within the last 5 years. Any single one would destroy Brittany Griner on the basketball court. She's slow compared to men. She is not as strong as the men. There is not a single player in the NBA who would not beat Brittany Griner in a game one-on-one. Now, she says, I would just love to go out there and play against Cousins. Griner told USA Today, we talk a lot of crap to each other. I love talking to him. He's really funny. I would love to go out there and play against him. Cousins then responded, whenever you're ready, get it on camera and see her get embarrassed. Ready to get it on camera and see her get embarrassed? I'm ready for it. It's almost like we're the same person. As soon as I walk in the door, she's at me. She says I'm a bum. She says she'll kick my butt. It's all in fun. She's an incredible competitor. She's an incredible player. It's fun to be around the ladies and get to know them. Basketball fans everywhere will wait and see if this game comes to fruition. No, it will never come to fruition because they don't want to. They don't want to embarrass this woman. Spud Webb didn't retire within the last 5 years. I said that have retired within the last 5 years. But I would say there's plenty of former NBA players that are in their 40s and 50s that could beat Brittany Griner one-on-one. right now, and no doubt in my mind. And especially any of the big men. Shaq's fat ass could beat her in a game right now. And he's so out of shape. It's crazy. Anyway, hello, T-Ball. What's happening? So that's just straight nonsense that would happen. But anyway, so that's the International Rugby League statement on what they're doing. Very interesting development here. Now, I'm also including, this is an excerpt from Matt Walsh's book, What is a Woman? My daughter's going to come over today. We're going to watch What is a Woman together. She asked me if she could come over and watch it, and we're going to hang out this afternoon. I'm interested in hearing my daughter's take on that movie, because my daughter is one of these younger people who went to school with the indoctrination machine that is American universities. And so I'm curious to hear her take on this. She's 27 now. Yeah, she's 27. And so I will talk about that later, because she said she's very interested in it. All right, let's move on. Let me move this ace back over here. So I'm gonna skip that. Oh, and there's just a couple of news items before I get into the main topic today. Interesting article, legal insurrection. Customers are blasted at a grocery store for pulling pro-American items. Are you kidding? Do people start on a bended knee, or is it like half bent and just waiting for a tweet? So I don't know if I showed this to you the other day. Harris Teeter is a supermarket based in the East Coast, and they received criticism for caving and removing patriotic items after a few people complained. Now, this is amazing. Christy Clark, a woman running for North Carolina House District 98, cannot believe Harris Teeter sold T-shirts promoting the Second Amendment. And then Clark tagged Kroger, because that's Harris Teeter's parent company, if you're familiar with Kroger, large grocery store chain. So she got mad, and let me put this on the screen a little bit bigger here. As soon as that fills in. She got mad because they had these shirts they were selling at this grocery store. One that said, "Give me liberty or give me death." Okay. Okay, why isn't this? There you go. There's one of them. "Give me liberty or give me death." The eagle holding it looks like a shotgun, actually. It doesn't even look like a rifle. And then the second one was, "Arms change, rights don't." Thomas Jefferson holding an AR-style rifle. Oh, man! What a scary message. So this woman decided to tweet, Harris Teeter Kroger, "I'm disappointed these koozies are being sold at the North Carolina store. 110 Americans die every day from gun violence, and most recently, children, educators, healthcare providers, and family members were killed in mass shootings. Please remove them." And Kroger replied, now here's something that I got to tell you. Kroger's reply is getting a lot more vitriol than it should have, because listen to their reply. They didn't listen carefully. I'm going to read it exactly as they wrote it. They said, "Thanks for reaching out, Christy. We will tell our leadership about your request that we remove these items from our shelves. We appreciate your feedback." Now, people were getting pissed off at Kroger for that message. Again, I'm going to read it again, because you got to listen to it carefully. "Thanks for reaching out, Christy. We will tell our leadership about your request that we remove these items from our shelves. We appreciate your feedback." All they said is, "Okay, we'll pass this along." They didn't say they were going to take action. They didn't say, we're going to take those items off our shelves immediately because they just said, "Nah, okay, we'll pass it along." And a lot of people were ripping Kroger. And this article probably is telling us about that, right? But people were complaining, and that Kroger and Harris, that a few people complained that, and Kroger, a few people complained, and Kroger and Teeter Harris, pull items, how disgusting. Are you kidding? Do people start on bended knee? Is it like half bent or just waiting for the tweet? Go woke, go broke. Hey, Harris Teeter, since you're so concerned, when are you removing alcohol from your stores? Now, so people will start ripping on them, call them clowns and things like that. But again, all this person at I think this is a mistake. I think it's a mistake. They didn't say they would pull the items. They just said, thanks for reaching out. We'll pass it along. So I think it's a little bit misplaced, but they got thousands of responses just ripping on them. Anyway, so it was unnecessary as far as I'm concerned. So I'm giving Kroger the benefit of the doubt on that one. Good morning, Jimmy Das Hotep. I have a liberty or death tattooed on my body. I'm against her feelings. Yeah, fuck her feelings. No, I mean, she can have her feelings, but I'm not gonna abide by her feelings. So anyway, I think they got a little bit of bad rap on that one. So, all right, let's move on. Oh, I never reset this. Good thing no one's here. Let's make sure I fix that. There we go. All right, because we do not have a superstar donor of the day. But on that note, while you're here, and if you're thinking about it, please hit the like button on the stream. 28 people and 17 likes so far. Also, please share the stream before, during, and after the stream. It always helps to share the stream. And you know how that works. If you're watching on replay, put a comment in the comment section. Maybe you can comment on that last one. Did Kroger do the right thing? Or did they just brush her off with a polite answer? And finally, if you want to sponsor the show, pdognight.live. You can watch the show, participate in the chat, and drop a couple of nickels in the tip jar here and there. Or you can use YouTube Super Chats if you don't mind giving Susan 15, 20, 30%. Anyway. All right, moving on. Now let's get into something. Oh, shoot. This is not the one I wanted to do yet. I want to save this one for over here. All right. In my fair city, there's been a court ruling on our mayor and his failures. Court rules virtue signaling Minneapolis mayor failed to protect citizens with enough cops. So this is, the birthplace of the defund the police movement after George Floyd. The Minnesota State Supreme Court has ordered kneeling Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey and his band of defundinistas to hire more cops as required under the city's charter, or show why they can't. It appears that virtue signaling finally exacts a cost to the virtue signalers. Fox 9 News, it's a Fox affiliate. The Fox 9 News affiliate here is just as liberal as any other news outlet. They report that the state's highest court sided with 8 Minneapolis residents who sued the mayor and council members for dumping police officers well below the rate at which the city charter promised. The citizens argued that there are only 621 officers on duty after the 2020 defunding blitz and riots following the death of George Floyd. Minneapolis was riven by unrest, looting, rioting, and the torching of a police precinct following the death of George Floyd. We knew that. Fox News reports that according to the lawsuit, residents sued Frey, that would be Jacob Frey, not because I don't live in Minneapolis, but the Minneapolis mayor, and city officials for not fulfilling their obligation to fund and employ the 0.0017 sworn police officers per Minneapolis resident. Based on the 2020 census, at least 731 officers should be on the force based on the city's population. The Fox News report continues. Minneapolis shed 300 police officers following the defunding efforts by the obsequious Frey, who tried and failed to win the approval of Black Lives Matter protesters and rioters, even though they torched and looted downtown. Actually, they didn't torch and loot downtown. I don't know who wrote this, but it was actually the area along Lake Street, just east of Uptown, which is an area that my son used to live in. Fox News reports that, okay, I said that. And this was Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey just got a struggle session. This is when they were yelling at him That's him right there in the t-shirt, and they're all yelling at him. And they're all flipping him off like it's his fault. So that was back during the George Floyd protest. That the mayor got booed out of the. Oh, someone's throwing shit at him. Anyway, so like Portland and Seattle, riot-torn cities that also knelt to Black Lives Matter demands and defund their police departments, police officers have left in droves rather than serving as props in the city's woke theatrics. Like those cities, Minneapolis has seen a violent crime explosion that is really out of control, leaving residents vulnerable and unable to defend themselves against a wave of criminals responsible for a record of 135 homicides last year. And they're already ahead of that rate this year. Now, they have it, when I first moved to Minneapolis, I moved here in 89, and about 5 years later, like the time between like 94 and 97, I lived in Minneapolis, and it got the nickname of Murderapolis because there was probably almost a murder every other day in Minneapolis, which doesn't sound like a lot, but for the size of Minneapolis, it kind of is. And but last year was pushing towards those records. Anyway, the other reason, also the reason I called this show, what do they think would happen? Well, the defunding of police officers was a direct result of capitulating to the BLM movement after the death of George Floyd. Floyd, who was stopped by police outside a store where the owners claimed he and his cohorts were passing fake $20 bills. Floyd was under the influence of fentanyl and meth, and a heart-throwing cocktail of drugs, which was exacerbated by Officer Derek Chauvin holding Floyd down with his knee. Chauvin was convicted of murder in the Minneapolis courtroom. He has appealed the conviction. So I didn't know he hasn't appealed the conviction yet. He's appealed the conviction of one of the charges, and he pled guilty to a federal charge. Which the one charge they've figured out he shouldn't have been charged with anyway. The Minnesota Supreme Court has already ruled that in another case that charge could not be done to an individual, and so anyway, it didn't apply to him. So that one will probably be dropped. But it's not going to get him out of jail because the manslaughter charge for sure is going to stick, as well it should. The other two charges were both dubious as far as I was concerned, but anyway. Now, on that same note, though, in Minneapolis, the court says, you know what, you're not protecting your citizens, you don't have enough police, but now in California, listen to this. Now, now this is wild. This is wild to me. So when you take, if you don't prosecute minor crimes, sometimes minor criminals become major criminals. But this is interesting. In California, a bill to prohibit arresting those loitering for prostitution has been sent to Governor Newsom. Now, this is not one of those crimes that probably leads to more violent crimes, but it's still interesting because there's this whole wave of laws and attorneys generals and whatever that seem not to want to prosecute crimes anymore. And so if you aren't going to prosecute crimes, what does that make? What does that do? It just makes more people want to be, it makes it more feasible to be criminals. Hello, Rockhopper, another friend from down under. A California bill to prohibit arrest for loitering with the intent to take part in prostitution has been sent to Governor Gavin Newsom's desk after passing the state legislature. Bill 357 would get rid of the misdemeanor law that doesn't allow people to loiter in public with the intention to carry out prostitutions. Those in favor of the bill say that police use the loitering restrictions to unfairly go after Californians of color as well as transgender people. Oh! So are they saying all prostitutes are of color or transgender? Well, I'm not going to be picking up any hookers in California. Well, I don't care about color, but transgender. I don't want a transgender hooker. Okay, I don't pick up hookers anyway, and I don't spend much time in California. But anyway, they also say the current law results in sex workers operating in dangerous situations, as well as supposedly inhibits their ability to get a job or housing because of their criminal history. Yes, that is what's restricting their ability to get a job or housing, their criminal history, as opposed to being hookers. Anyway, opponents of the measure point out that it will endanger women and children who could be used for sex trafficking purposes. What? So, wait a minute. How does arresting people for the prostitution loitering endanger women and children who could be used for sex trafficking purposes? I don't understand that. Anybody? So anyway, this is another one of those examples where they're trying to decriminalize certain things that maybe every time you decriminalize something, doesn't that cause more problems? And I'm going to look. Here's another one in Chicago. Police no longer allowed to chase criminals over minor defenses. Chicago police officers will no longer be permitted to chase people on foot over minor offenses, the department stated on Tuesday. Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown announced the new policy designed to increase safety for officers and bystanders. The change is set to go into effect by the end of the summer. Gee, well, maybe. Now, here's the only idea that, or maybe the only reason this may make sense. If they stop chasing people for minor offenses, maybe they can start trying to catch the murderers in Chicago. God dang. If they arrest prostitutes and find out they've been trafficked and busted trafficking, yeah, that's, there. It's just the opposite, isn't it? They're rich or a man squatch. It seems like it'd be the opposite. Yeah, arrest them for loitering and then find out if they're part of a trafficking ring. Good point. Let's see. Decriminalizing does not equal make legal. No, but what it makes equal is that if they're not going to prosecute for these things, then it's de facto legal, even though it's not legal, right? I'm thinking. Anyway, the safety of community members and our officers remain the core of this new foot pursuit policy, Brown said in a statement according to NBC Chicago. We collaborated internally with our officers and externally with our residents to develop policy we all have a stake in. The new policy highlights the sanctity of all human life in the protection of the public, defining when pursuits are justified. The mere act of flight alone by a person will not serve as justification for engaging in foot pursuit. Well, that's not what this says up here, though. What? This will not chase people on foot over minor offenses. That doesn't say that you're just chasing somebody who runs. You're chasing somebody who has committed offense. But, the mere act of flight alone by a person will not serve as justification for engaging in a foot pursuit. Department members are prohibited from basing an investigatory stop solely on a person's response to the presence of police, such as a person's attempt to avoid contact with a department member or flight, the policy notes. Examples of approved foot pursuits include drunk driving, domestic battery, and street racing. Minor offenses such as parking violations. Oh, these are, I thought, well, they said foot pursuit. Are you going to do a foot pursuit? Approved foot pursuits include drunk driving. Oh, I see. If they leave their car after drunk driving. Domestic battery, street racing, minor offenses such as parking violations or driving on a suspended license will be excluded from the foot pursuit policy. Okay, I can understand that. Never mind. The department's previous policy came under scrutiny after the March 2021 shooting of 22-year-old Anthony Alvarez, who shot in the back by police after fleeing on foot. The video of the fatal shooting was released that included the audio of an officer shouting, drop the gun before opening fire. Alvarez was armed, with the disturbing video leading to much controversy over the incident. If he's running away, even with the gun in his hand, is he a danger to other people out there? I don't know. I didn't follow that case. But anyway, it's still though, crime will go down when the economy gets better. How about that? All right, moving on. I'm going to stay on the legal issues here. The Supreme Court, in their wave of decisions coming out, here's one decision on gun crime sentencing that Justices Thomas and Alito authored blistering dissents on. Supreme Court Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito released blistering dissents Tuesday after the High Court limited the reach of a federal statute requiring harsh penalties for certain crimes involving guns. Limited the reach of a federal statute requiring harsh penalties for certain gun crimes. Oh, the case centered around Justin Taylor, who authorities said was a marijuana dealer in Virginia in the early 2000s. Taylor and an accomplice planned in 2003 to rob money from a buyer, and the accomplice shot and killed the buyer during the robbery, according to This Is CNN. Taylor was subsequently charged with attempted Hobbs Act robbery, which is a federal crime and has a maximum sentence of 20 years. Taylor was sentenced to a total of 30 years. However, because of a federal statute that requires a mandatory minimum sentencing for using firearms during a violent crime. It's a mandatory minimum sentencing for using a firearm during a violent crime. The court ruled Tuesday that attempted Hobbs Act robbery is not technically a crime of violence, and therefore Taylor should not have to serve the extra 10-year requirement. Simply put, no element of an attempted Hobbs Act requires proof that the defendant attempted to use, or threatened to use force, Justice Neil Gorsuch wrote for the majority. Thomas dissented, invoking Alice in Wonderland while doing so. This holding exemplifies how this court's categorical approach has led to the federal judiciary on a journey through the looking glass, during which we have found many strange things. Rather than continue this 30-year excursion into the absurd, I would hold that Taylor's accountable for what he actually did and uphold his conviction. Alito concurred with Thomas. I agree with Justice Thomas that our cases involving 924C3A have veered off into fantasy land, Alito wrote, but if the court is going to disregard the real world and base its decisions in this area on a strict reading of the text, the offense for which Taylor was convicted, attempted Hobbs Act robbery, meets the definition in 924C3A. So, interesting. All right, I'm going to move on because that was a little overly technical. Facebook has a new audit director. And marketing leads our former Pfizer director. This is the audit director and marketing leads. I don't know what that means. Facebook, a platform that routinely censors posts critical of stupid 19 vaccines, has hired several alumni from Pfizer's marketing and internal audit teams to lead similar efforts at the social media platform, the National Post can reveal. The hires appear to present a conflict of interest for the social media platform, which has come under fire for censoring and banning users who posted about the side effects or questioned the efficacy of stupid 19 vacations. Facebook's internal audit director, for example, was formerly a senior director at Pfizer. Oh, how convenient. The employee, Tiffany Stokes, has held at the influential position at Facebook since 2020. Building and owns strong relationships with critical business partners, provide project oversight of operational audits, manage internal audit plan, and risk assessment, she lists as part of her job description on her LinkedIn profile. Leadership requires close collaboration with the sales, partnership, global operations, international, HR, and legal teams to assess and prioritize risk across an ever-changing high-tech business landscape. But she worked for Pfizer. Prior to joining Facebook, Stokes worked at stupid 19 vaccine maker Pfizer for 5 years as the senior director of its finance and legal operations. Established in okay, whatever. Anyway, so that's they got a. You wonder why Facebook won't let you talk about stupid 19. There's got to be a connection somehow. Anyway, now other news. Biden has said there's going to be another pandemic. Now, I think people are hyping this sentence a little too much, but President Biden said Tuesday that there's enough COVID relief funding to get Oh, he said there is enough COVID relief funding to get through at least this year, but the administration needs more money for vaccines for children and to plan for the second pandemic. Now, first, this whole thing about vaccines for children, I would just say, look at the numbers. That's all I'm going to say. This is YouTube, so you got to be very careful about what you say. But look at the numbers. Congress has not approved a $10 billion COVID funding request, despite the Biden administration's insistence that the money is needed for future stupid 19 variants and worldwide vaccination efforts. Worldwide vaccination efforts. Why? Can we stop just throwing money everywhere else around the world? How about we just take care of people here? After announcing plans to distribute stupid 19 vaccines for kids 5 and under, which recently received FDA approval, yes, because I'm sure that's tough to get, the president was asked, I know you're looking for more money from Congress for this vaccine campaign and for stupid 19 funding going into the fall. How much of the supply of vaccines for these small children is there, and how many of the nation's kids will you be able to get vaccinated before you need more money from Congress? A reporter asked. We'll get through at least this year. We do need more money, but we don't just need more money for vaccines for children eventually. We need more money to plan for the second pandemic. There's going to be another pandemic. What? Is that what he meant to say? Is that what he meant to say? We need money for it didn't say a second pandemic, the second pandemic. There's going to be another pandemic. What does that mean, Joe? We have to think ahead, and that's not something the last outfit did very well. That's something we've been doing very well. That's why we need the money. Yeah. Gotta go. Oh, what the hell did I do? Let me see. Did I just close a tab? Hang on a second here. Let me just flip over here for a second. I'm going to see if I can reopen the closed tab. There we go. Oh, I meant to do this one a little earlier. Interesting column here from Dennis Prager. Dennis Prager asked an interesting question here. What do, quote, men give birth, end quote, and, quote, defund the police, end quote, have in common? I found this article fascinating. Unless you are brainwashed, do you regard the statements men give birth and defund the police as absurd? Why then do leftists, as opposed to liberals and conservatives, say these things and even believe them? I think there are two related explanations. One is that the left seeks to tear down every normative institution. If men give birth, man and woman no longer mean anything. Men give birth means the end of the male-female distinction, the most basic distinction in the human race. Racial distinctions pale in comparison. So do national distinctions. Marxists support the obliteration of the male-female distinction because the only distinction that matters to Marxists is that of class. The other explanation is that the end game of leftism is chaos. It is related to the first explanation, since the obliteration of all distinctions is chaos. Distinctions mean order. Having no distinctions means chaos. I came to realize the significance of distinctions when writing my commentary on the first 5 books of the Bible, the Rational Bible. This is Dennis Prager speaking, obviously. The Bible's moral order is dependent on distinctions. Among them are man and God, good and evil, human and animal, holy and profane, parent and child, man and woman, beautiful and ugly. Distinctions are so important to the Judeo-Christian moral order that Weltanschauung, that making distinctions is what God did for the 6 days, while they are known as the 6 days of creation. The fact is that after creating the heavens and earth, God does little creating. After Genesis 1:1, the only thing God creates are the animals, listed in 1:21, and the human being in 1:27. So then what did God do for the remainder of the 6 days? He created order out of chaos. That's why the second verse of Genesis may well be the second most important verse in the Bible. Genesis 1:1 is the most important because if you don't accept its premise, none of what follows matters. And all was null and void, meaning all was chaos. Chaos is the natural state of the world. Transformation of chaos in order necessitated God. Order is composed of distinctions. Natural order was dependent on the distinction between night and day and land and sea, and moral and social order was dependent on the distinctions listed above. While they are all dependent upon God, the Bible describes only one of them as created by God, the human being as male and female. The left seeks to obliterate these biblical distinctions. The left denies. Now look, and again, these distinctions are not necessarily just biblical either. The distinctions are there whether you believe in the biblical or not. The only one that doesn't really kind of fit in is if you don't believe in this is man and God. But you know what? We have concepts of good and evil in humanity and natural, human and animal. Holy and profane would be not necessarily the holy, but the acceptable and unacceptable. Parent and child, man and woman, beautiful and ugly. We all have those. We all make those distinctions regardless of what the Bible says. But the left seeks to obliterate these biblical or non-biblical distinctions for that matter. The left denies the distinction between man and God. As Marx said, man is God. The idea that there is a transcendent being to which man owes moral obedience is anathema to the left. Man is the answer only to himself and ultimately to a left-wing state. The left denies the distinction between good and evil. On the left, there is no objective morality. Good and evil are subjective, determined by an individual, by the individual and the community. If the left denies the distinction between good and evil, on the left, there is no objective morality. Good and evil are subjective. Okay, so the left denies the distinction between human and animal. According to the largest animal rights organization, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, which is PETA, for example, there is no moral difference between a chicken and a human being. They are equally valuable, so much so that according to PETA, there is no moral difference between a barbecued chicken and a cremated Jew in the Holocaust. He went a little harsh there, I think, on that one. The left denies the difference between the beautiful and the ugly in art. That explains the ugly music and architecture and the meaningless art in the art world, led by the left, has produced for a century. And now the left denies the difference between man and woman. What is this all about? It's all about rejecting the divine order, which made civilizations possible, and returning to chaos. That's why, quote, men give birth, end quote, is related to defund the police. Both lead to chaos. If you ask those who claim that men give birth or who seek to defund the police, do you believe in chaos? Most won't know what you're talking about. On a conscious level, chaos is not what the left seeks, but it is what the left creates. The war against Western civilization is a war against distinctions and order. That is why the left loathes talk about Judeo-Christian and biblical values. These values represent the divine, moral, and social distinctions and subsequent order that constitute Western civilization. That's why men give birth and defund the police are related. Both represent disorder. So I just found that fascinating. It's an interesting read, and I thought I'd read it today. Hello, Straight Sith Male. Nice to see you. Also, thank you, Tyler Alexander. And you are the new Streamlabs Superstar sponsor of the day. Tyler says, I live by a strict rule. If my house is dirty, I can't tell you that your house is dirty until I clean mine. So until we feed our own, we can't give away any food. Digging yourself into a hole is asinine. Yes, sir, you are perfectly and wonderfully correct there. Thank you for sponsoring the show. Dropping a small bullet in the tip jar. All right. Let's see. I got a little time left. Let's try to get through some more of this. In the Behind the Black, I like this blog. Today's Blacklisted American. Their student government demands blacklisting of every club that does not endorse queer agenda. They're coming for you next. Student government at North Texas University has passed a resolution that demands the school blacklist every club that expresses any dissenting opinion about the queer agenda. Here's the resolution. Therefore, let it be resolved that any UNT student organization that engages in harassment, discrimination, hate crimes, and or violation of UNT policy through transphobic posts, statements, and actions be immediately suspended to protect the mental, emotional, and physical health of transgender students at UNT. Because transgender students are the most important people on earth to protect. They have a shield in front of them that shall not be penetrated. Anyway, note how this resolution isn't condemning actual harassment. Instead, it considers mere disagreement to be harassment, discrimination, and a hate crime, and thus must be punished. The resolution lists a bunch of incidents where so-called trans students, more adequately described as emotionally unstable individuals who want to make believe that they are a different sex, I could probably get in trouble for reading that. Anyway, were offended and felt unsafe when others expressed their opposition to this queer agenda. The key and most significant event, however, involved an appearance at the school of Jeff Younger, who was then running for state legislature, but more importantly had been involved in a very public and truly horrifying case where one of his two sons had been forced by a guardian to dress as a girl because that guardian had decided the boy was one. To understand how horrifying that is, look at the images in the link. There's a link there. You can click. I'll actually open it and just leave it there. Younger had fought but failed to protect his son. He came to the campus to tell a story, which was then disrupted by leftist protests and chants and obscenities. Apparently, it's all right for Younger to feel unsafe. These leftist rules always apply only in one direction. The articles at the link quotes Program Officer Graham Pirro from the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression. Quote, should a university choose to enforce this resolution, student groups could be denied funding because of their views, Pirro stated in his email. Someone else would just need to complain that what they said is hateful or transphobic. Because there's no legal definition for those terms, a huge array of speech could theoretically become subject to punishment. And they're absolutely right. It's weird that they want to demand that if you don't agree with something, you get no funding. You cannot be a student at this university. You cannot participate in student-run activities run by students that are part of your group. It's crazy. Anyway, let me move over here real quick. I want to just double check. Hello, James Colley, who says male and female in human beings are defined by chromosomes XX, XY. In this day and age, wouldn't it be a productive tool to counter the stupidity? I don't know. It's you don't get many chances with the leftists. So, and if you're not familiar with James Younger is the he was part of a custody battle, and his mother insisted that the boy was a girl, and so they argued that the child is a girl named Luna, and the jury gave her the decision-making authority on what to do with the son. And so the mother started dressing him as a girl, and she's also a pediatrician, so she got some extra weight to her testimony because of that. And I don't know, this whole story, in fact, I'll link the story here because if you haven't heard it, it's the saddest thing ever. But the mother, and the courts have always sided with the mother on whether or not this little boy would be forced to transition. And when he was with his dad, he was a boy. He didn't claim to be a girl. But when he was with his mom dressed him in dresses and told him he was a girl and insisted that he wanted to be a girl. And I don't know how far they've gone here in the photos here, but the courts basically said that James Younger has no rights and the mother trying to treat his son as a girl is what the courts decided. So it's awful situation. Let's go to this one. Let's see. Oh, I'm going to skip this one. This is an article about how colleges, universities, whatever, are manufacturing social justice warriors on an industrial scale. I'll just read the lead here. For over half a century, American institutions of higher education have been guilty of promoting oikophobia, hatred of one's own people, and, more generally, Western civilization. Instruction initially only occurred in traditional academic disciplines like English and sociology, where youngsters learned about America's racism, sexism, and multiple other sins. Within a few years, though, America bashing had its own departments, notably women's studies, black studies, and other grifter studies departments. By the way, as I always say, if you have a major ending in the word studies, study menus. There you go. Remarkably, despite this plain to see pernicious impact of this education, it continues to thrive and expand. America-hating academics resemble drug addicts, unable to achieve highs from the original dose and thus must move on to ever larger amounts. At some point, alas, this addictive pursuit may prove fatal, and the same may be true in education as our schools continue to demonize America. So it goes on and on about how this is happening at various universities with several examples and whatnot. But we already knew that American colleges are becoming almost Marxist indoctrination centers, except for a couple places. Now, there's a couple bright spots out there, like the University of Chicago and their free speech policy, which is pretty surprising, seeing it's such one of the most prestigious colleges in the country. But anyway, let's see. Staying on that education line, we have this one from Yale. Trap House Dean retires from Yale Law School. Retirement comes after Ellen Cosgrove, the associate dean of the law school, was mired in multiple scandals. Now, what kind of scandals? Well, first of all, Yale Law School pressured a student to apologize for using the term trap house in an email. But she has decided, Ellen Cosgrove, an associate dean of Yale Law School, who pressured a student to apologize for using the term trap house in an email, has decided to retire, the law school announced on Tuesday. I want to thank Dean Cosgrove for her years of service to generations of students at Yale. Heather Gerken, the dean of the Yale Law School, said in an email to students and faculty. Dean Cosgrove's last day at the law school will be August 12th. Cosgrove's 7-year tenure has been controversial. Along with the Yale Law School Diversity Director Yassine Eldick, Cosgrove hinted to second-year law student Trent Colbert that he could face disciplinary consequences if he didn't apologize for inviting classmates to his, quote, trap house, end quote, a term she and Eldick characterize as, guess, racist.
That's racist!
Without an apology, Cosgrove implied in a September meeting, Colbert might have trouble with the bar exam's character and fitness investigations, which she could weigh in on as an associate dean. The law school found itself doing damage control after the Washington Free Beacon published audio of the meeting after figures across the political spectrum slammed Cosgrove and Eldick for chilling free speech. The Foundation for Individual Rights in Education likened the meeting to a mafia shakedown. Ruth Marcus, the deputy editorial page editor of the Washington Post, likened it to Mao's Cultural Revolution. Writing in The Atlantic, Connor Friesendorf called Eldick and Cosgrove's behavior unethical, discreditable, and clearly incompatible with key values that an elite law school purports to uphold. Anyway, it tells the whole story, but good. They need to get rid of this bitch. So there. Thank you, Tyler Alexander, for another small bullet in the tip jar, who says, so in spite of the father, she's going to destroy her son. I'm going to change my name, Tyanus Alexandrius, because if this is the fall of Roman shit, it is looking very it's looking very close. The barbarians are at the gates, and the traitors inside the walls. Yes, there's another guy. Well, if you saw the What Is a Woman movie, the guy in Canada who's, just they called him and said they were going to start putting his daughter on hormones like that day, and he's like, what? Well, no, the ex-wife took him. I don't understand why it is that liberal white women love transitioning their children. I don't know. Is it just because is it so they can have a trophy and get praise on the internet or some shit? I swear to God, it's becoming to sound like that way. Anyway, moving on, more on education. I think I have one more education story here. So the Supreme Court, this is one of the things that they already put out. The state does not have to fund private education, but once it decides to fund private education, it cannot discriminate against any religious private schools. Let the hysterical overreactions begin. So they strike a Maine law that funded secular but not religious private education. So no Supreme Court decision yet in the big Second Amendment or abortion cases, but a significant religious freedom case involving Maine was handed down. We covered the case only once before. Critical race theory becomes an issue during Supreme Court argument in Maine's school funding case. On Wednesday, December 8th, 2021, the Supreme Court heard oral arguments in a case challenging Maine's policy, which provides states funds for students who do not have a local public secondary school to attend private school, but not private religious school. The funds go to the students, not directly to the schools. The case is Carson versus Macon. You can listen to oral arguments. They have a link to that, and they have a link to the transcript. But here's how a SCOTUS blog described the issues in the case and background. The dispute, Carson versus Macon, centers on the system that Maine uses to ensure that all school-age children in the state have an opportunity to receive a free public education. With fewer than 180,000 students in kindergarten through 12th grade, distributed over 260 school districts, not all school districts operate their own secondary school. Instead, some districts make arrangements with specific private schools or other public schools to take their students. And other districts allow their students to choose their own public or private school and pay their tuition. However, the Maine program only allows tuition payments to go to private schools that are non-sectarian. That is, schools that do not provide religious instruction. There certainly seems to be... Oh, wait, let's see. Now, he mentioned that there seemed to be a conservative majority to overturn the law. So anyway, they're saying that if you provide your public funds to the kid, they were restricting that you could not go to a school that had any religious instruction. But if it seems to me it seems to make sense to me that this is not I don't believe that this is the state. What's the word I'm trying to think of? Seems like some will say, "Oh, there's a church versus state argument here." But if you're giving the money to the students, can't they choose where to go? I don't know. So anyway, you can read some of the oral arguments here. They listed someone in the article and they linked to it. But in the end, the state does not have to fund private education, but once it decides to fund private education, it can't discriminate against religious private education. So there's going to be a lot of reaction to this, I'm sure. Oh, Jeffrey Toobin reacted. CNN masturbation expert Jeffrey Toobin hates that the Supreme Court would protect religious liberty and end state-sponsored discrimination against religious schools. He claims that it violates the establishment clause. That idea is breaking down under the conservative majority. Well, it doesn't break the establishment clause because the state's not establishing the school or the religion. The parents chose that option. Legal analyst Jennifer Roger claims that the conservative justices are tearing down free speech by siding with religious liberty. This court is elevating the religious aspects of the First Amendment above others, she whines. How? What are you talking about? Sotomayor brings up the case in her dissent. In 2017, I feared that the court was leading us to a place where separation of church and state is a constitutional slogan, not a constitutional commitment. there is no separation of church and state in the Constitution. That's a misnomer. Oh my God. It doesn't establish religion. They can go to any religious school. They can go to any non-religious school. They can go to whatever school they want. It's not establishing anything. And now Randy Weingartner, the American Federation of Teachers CEO, remarkably and stunningly, even for this right-wing majority, this decision completely, I suppose you meant, violates the Establishment Clause, and with it, the separation of church and state. There is no separation of church and state. Okay, the state cannot establish a religion. Doesn't say it can't. Oh my God, it doesn't eliminate religion from the public square. Anyway, all right, let's get through the last. We got a whole bunch of them to go through quick. Harlem Democrat who wants police to fund move to a wealthy neighborhood after being robbed. In today's edition of I Can't Wait to Vote this November, we have a story of New York Assemblyman Yu Line Niao, Democrat for Lower Manhattan, a defund the police fanatic who we now know moved to a safer area due to crime problems in her old neighborhood. You can see when you see when you can afford to move to a nicer neighborhood, you can afford to call for the end of policing. Hey, it won't hurt me. Anyway, it's from the New York Post. That's funny. In Florida, this Florida Democrat sells Pride merch, but only on his English-speaking, campaign site. Charlie Crist keeps Spanish web store free of Pride pins and buttons. Interesting. Charlie Crist, a Democratic congressman, campaigned to unseat Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in November, offered Pride-themed items for sale on the English language version of his website, but offers none on the Spanish version. I wonder if the more Catholic Hispanic population of Florida doesn't want to see that shit. That's funny. His Spanish webpage contains a handful of generic campaign items with messages translated into Spanish. Support for Democrats among Florida Latinos has plummeted in recent election cycles. Analysts have pointed to the Democratic Party's left-wing swing on social issues as a factor in the party's hemorrhaging of Hispanic voters. Well, that's fascinating. That's kind of like how companies have their, they put pride in their logos in the American versions of their websites, but not in the Saudi Arabia versions or the Qatar versions or the United Arab Emirate versions of their websites. Interesting article in PJ Media. Is Kamala Harris planning a coup to oust Joe Biden? No. The Democrats already had that planned out when he got elected. We know that in roughly around March 2023, you will be saying, Madam President. It's just, and they're already talking about how his age, he's too old to run again, blah, 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 blah. So, and there is tension. Well, here's how it starts. We've known tension between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for some time now, but former President Bill Clinton strategist Dick Morris believes Biden aides are now leaking damaging stories on Harris out of concern that she will attempt to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove Biden from office. You mean or how Biden is going to get sick? Remember that one? Morris cites a New York Times story today that dismisses Harris as not ready for prime time because she antagonizes her staff and botched her trip to the border. What trip to the border? Has she been to the border yet? I don't think so. Morris believes the leak must have undoubtedly come from the Biden forces. So they're still having their squabbling. Who cares? Move on. Also, the Biden administration said it never planned to fund crack pipes. House Democrats are set to ban the funding anyway. So remember when you remember, they said, we're going to fund these safe smoking kits. And, they came out, people on the internet said, yeah, they're funding crack pipes for crack addicts and whatever. And the Biden administration, we're not funding crack pipes. But then when you go to the states where they're handing the shit out, and in the safe smoking kits, there were crack pipes and meth pipes and all sorts of smoking paraphernalia. Well, because the Biden administration said they're not funding crack pipes, the Democrats are now going to ban funding crack pipes. The crack pipes that they were never funding, that they did fund, but they never funded them. The Democrat-controlled House is set to pass a bill on Wednesday that bans Biden administrations from funding crack pipe distribution through mental health and substance abuse programs. How many of you are familiar with the Keystone Cops? Well, this is the Keystone Cop administration. Feds fully on board the trans train. You know what? I might have to have a second show this afternoon because I'm running out of time. But back in March, the Biden administration celebrated International Transgender Day of Visibility by extolling the virtues of the kindly sounding gender affirming care. But this innocuous sounding term can be extraordinarily hazardous to the health of young people. Puberty blockers, hormone therapy, and gender affirming therapies, all irreversible, are part of the program. This bit of insanity was followed by a major rewrite of Title IX in May, which prohibits sex discrimination and harassment in programs receiving federal funds and now includes discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender. As the Federalist Joy Pullman explains, any establishment that accept any federal funding for food, including schools, must allow males who claim to be female access female private spaces such as showers, bathrooms, and sleeping areas. These organizations must also follow protocols such as requiring staff to use inaccurate pronouns to describe transgender people and allowing male staff to dress as women while on the job. So just a bunch of different things. I mean, this is a long one too, so I can't get into it, but we already knew that when we heard, before Jen Psaki left, she was almost crying about how, that we need to make it that children can get gender affirming care, which means basically puberty blockers or certain surgeries while you're still a minor. And it's like, wait. You can't do that. You can't do that. You're hurting kids. But some people are saying, oh, we're passing draconian laws that don't allow, people to be who they want to be. You know what? How about wait until you're an adult before you can make a decision that requires you to go on medication for the rest of your life? All right. What is this? I'm skipping that. I'm not going to have that on the screen. Let's see. This bipartisan gun bill. I get nervous anytime I see anyone use the word bipartisan, unless it's like a resolution for Happy Rose Day or some shit like that. Bipartisan gun bill is every bit as bad as we warned you it'd be. And thank you, John Cornyn, you piece of crap. I'll have to get into stuff about John Cornyn because he's a big reason this shit's going through. We're beginning to learn from some of the ideas contained in the U.S. Senate bill written in answer to the Uvalde, Texas school shooting. Instead of resolving how to harden soft targets or requiring cops to try the front door to find out if it's unlocked to neutralize a school murderer, we have a bill so far written mostly in invisible ink that goes after legal gun owners. The bill is being authored by the gang of 4 senators who are willing to sell out law-abiding gun owners because there's no political downside for them. Texas Republican John Cornyn, who is in GOP leadership, expects his voters to forgive him by the time he's up for re-election in 2027. Democrat Kirsten Sinema has as her counterpart in the Arizona delegation the husband of Gabby Giffords, who's the leader of an anti-gun group. Democrat Senator Chris Murphy can't understand why Americans need or want guns. He's a senator from Sandy Hook. And Republican Tom Tillis apparently doesn't care what North Carolinians think about the right to bear arms. He, too, faces no voting for 5 more years. Senators' marching orders were to do something after the debacle in Uvalde. The Washington Post reported that the domestic violence so-called boyfriend loophole that was at threat of being dropped have been worked out and are part of the legislation. It requires expanded background checks for people aged 18 to 21, as well as funding for states to enact so-called red flag laws. There's funding for mental health programs, telehealth, and criminal purchases for straw purchases, which are already against the law. Oh, and almost as an afterthought, there's money for school safety. Does the school safety provision require teachers to carry guns or pay for their training? Doubtful, but it is unclear at this point. The bill's language states that so-called red flag laws supported by the bill would allow persons targeted to retain the right to due process, an attorney at their own expense, and the ability to confront witnesses before any guns are removed, according to the Constitution. The issue, of course, is that red flag laws are civil matters, and therefore targets are not accorded civil rights under criminal law. It's a nice thought, though. So far, 20 entities, 19 states, and the District of Columbia have red flag laws. The feds would pay states cost in implementing the laws that take guns out of the hands of people who family members, cops, and others determine need to have them taken away. Senators call for an under 21-year-old waiting period as for juvenile records, and for juvenile records eventually be included with the NICS background database. So anyway, Senator Corn of Texas, who is not getting any love for this, is a big part of this bill. And it's, I don't know, they like to call that slippery slope thing. Anyway, I got to get going. I do have a whole bunch of other articles I didn't even get close to. Just a couple highlights. The abject failure of the Uvalde situation. Texas police commander says that key was not needed. Uvalde gunman could have been stopped in 3 minutes. That's the reference to the unlocked door that the police could have gone in and got the guy. I still haven't figured out why they didn't immediately just go in. Nobody immediately went after that guy. I mean, you would think, I don't know. It's just terrible. Also, from the Daily Caller, we got, what the hell there? A bunch of Republicans are still rejecting the latest alcohol, tobacco, firearms nominee that Biden sent to the Senate. Attorney generals in 15 Republican states are demanding Senate leaders block President Joe Biden's nominee to lead the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, according to their letter to the Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, obtained by the Daily Caller. The nominee will merely rubber stamp Biden's partisan anti-gun platform, the 15 legal officers wrote Wednesday, noting that Steve Dettelbach has a history of activism to restrict Second Amendment rights of Americans. And Biden's not having much luck trying to get someone in the ATF. They've already rejected one. Also, article in the American Spectator, the Democrats incendiaries. This is, maybe I'll do this afternoon. I'm just going to go ahead and call it a day, guys, because I have too many here that I haven't even come close to getting to. But I may do a show this afternoon. Why did I do that? Hit the right one. Let's try that. There we go. All right. I got to call it a day. But y'all, thank you so much for joining me today on the Morning Night Live. I may do a stream to get caught up in some of these other articles this afternoon. But that's about it. A programming note, there's not going to be a Trail Stomp stream this weekend either. Lady Boomer and I are going to do a day trip to Marshalltown, Iowa. Apparently the banners that they put up of veterans from Marshalltown are up in Marshalltown, Iowa, in the downtown area, and my dad is on one of them. So we're going to go down and get some pictures around there, and then we're going to drive over to Winterset, Iowa, and go check out the bridges of Madison County again, get some new video because I lost some video when I switched some computers over. It had a glitch, and a bunch of my files got lost. So that's what's going to happen this weekend. But as you know, I am here Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. For the Morning Night Live. If you haven't hit the like button yet so far, hit the like button. Share the stream before, during, and after the stream. If you're watching a replay, put a comment in the comment section. And if you want to sponsor the show, you can do it at pdognight.live, 24 hours a day, or Venmo Cash App in the description down below during the show, pdognight.live, and YouTube Super Chats. So thanks everyone who sponsored the show today. Well, that would be Tyre Alexander. Tyre, you are the Streamlab Superstar sponsor of the day. You are the sponsor of the day. Whoops, that was a little premature. Stop.
Hey,
stop it.
Stop it. Thanks for watching today on the P-Dog Night.
Shut up. There we go. I just told myself to shut up. Anyway, I'm hoping that you all have a wonderful day. That's it. I guess I could have just let that go. I'm P-Dog Knight, and I'm out of here. Bye-bye.
Hey, this is P-Dog Night, and thanks for watching today on the P-Dog Night channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterwards so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all the supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through Streamlabs, YouTube, Venmo, and Cash App, which are all linked in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm P Dog Knight, and I'm out of here.